Hello, folks. Welcome to Everyday Experts. I am your host, your concierge, your direct captain, whatever you would like to say, Sir Joker. I know Mr. Martinez is scheduled to be on the show, but due to unforeseen circumstances with his air conditioning and him having to tend to that, Mr. Martinez will not be joining us today. He's going to be rescheduled. So I had to call a last-minute Omaha or Audible. And because me and my friend did not get a chance to really go into a lot of stuff, but we went into a lot last week, I'm going to bring Mitchell back on. I called him at 8:57. So literally like 9 minutes ago. And I was like, oh, can you come on? He was like, sure. So this is what best friends about. Best friendship is about. Mitchell, welcome to the show.
Hello again.
Nice. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Just, having a happening Saturday night, building a PowerPoint presentation for a talk I'm giving in, 13 days in Orlando? Who wants to go to Orlando in 13 days?
Yeah, I know you wanted to talk about that last week. We didn't really get into it. So tell me what that's about, sir.
All right. So a friend of mine who ironically I was just helping with a crypto problem, he has a coaching and education community called Alchemist Nation, and that community basically is not just a real estate investing community, but more so a wealth building community. How to have financial success. So it goes into some of the mindset stuff, a la like Tony Robbins. But then it also gets into some of the actual, practices, whether it's real estate or just financial planning or business building. And also with that is now crypto, because, that's something that should probably be a little piece of everyone's, overall investment portfolio. So even though I am a veteran real estate investor, I did go down that crypto hole some years ago, as we talked about last week. Mm-hmm. So with that said, he's having me do a speech, a presentation on, why crypto and kind of, what exactly it is and how it intertwines into the economy now, just to demystify it for people. So I'm putting together something for that. But yeah, it's October 22nd through the 24th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm not even kidding, straight up. If anyone wants to take a vacation to Orlando, I'll get you a ticket to the event for free, because I'm speaking at it, so I can bring guests. So, any listener of yours is a friend of mine. So straight up, anyone wants to come to Orlando, I mean, obviously you got to get down here and get yourself a room, but for the event, you can get in for free.
So when you say demystify, I think that's a good way of explaining and I think the name crypto is very interesting because it's cryptic and it's confusing, but as you said, it's not as confusing as it sounds. Why does it come across as so confusing?
I mean, it goes back to we fear what we don't know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest problem. I don't even think it's that it's confusing. I think it's people they don't understand it, they're scared of it, and that creates feelings of anxiety. But I don't know why it seems so confusing, because once you get the basics, everyone's always like, oh, okay, because the basics of crypto is no different than online banking with a twist.
Okay.
Now, past the basics, yeah, you can go, off the deep end in terms of I don't feel knowledgeable in crypto when I'm in my crypto communities with the real crypto heads, right? But when I talk to what they call, so like there's all different slang in crypto, and one of them is normies. So basically, like anyone that like doesn't know crypto, isn't invested in crypto, like they refer to those people as normies. So like you would be a normie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it basically just means normal people. So to normies, I seem like a crypto guru. But then, like I said, when I'm with the crypto heads in like the crypto communities, I'm trying to keep my head above water. So yeah, it can get, but that holds true in terms of the confusion. That holds true in anything. It's no different like with finances, right? I understand the basics of like mortgages and finances and financial engineering, but like if you bring me to like a Wall Street firm, right, and they're doing like next level financial modeling, I'm sitting there like, what in the hell is going on, right?
Right.
So it's all relative, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But in terms of the basics of crypto, anyone that knows how to use a Robinhood account, then they'll be able to understand and function with crypto.
Can you bring back up Mr. Ben's comment, please, Mr. Munoz, sir? To be fair, I don't even understand actual money, but I invested in some crypto.
My man.
Do you think that, I don't want to say it like this, but there are people that invested in the stock market for years and, they do terrible at it, or they're not good at it, or they're just average. Is crypto like dumbed down for people in a sense?
No, I mean, in terms of investing in it, it's dumbed down in that it's the same as legacy finance, where like just like you would, go buy a stock on E-Trade, you can just go on Coinbase and buy crypto, right? In that sense, it's one to one. It's the same thing. Now, if you want to, because here's what crypto does. All right, so here's a good example. So there's always the argument between like iPhones and Android, right? And you know me, like I'm an Android guy. I hate on
Team
iPhone.
Blue.
So, the big difference between the two is that iPhones are more user friendly, right? But they give you less control. Android, you have more control over that phone, like in terms of what you can do with it. If you want to actually take the time to understand, and adjust your apps and all that stuff, right? So that's kind of like what crypto is, right? You have regular legacy finance, which is pretty like dumbed down, like things are taken care of for you, everything's done in the background. You pretty much have little control of your money. Like, and to prove this point, if you've ever tried to go to the bank and withdraw more than like $5,000 in cash, you can't do it. You have to literally schedule it 5 days in advance so they can get the money. Like they don't keep a lot of actual money at the bank. So, with crypto, if someone wants full control of their money, now they have the ability to do it. Like if you put your money into cryptocurrency and put it on off exchange wallets, you have full control of your money. You can do whatever the F you want with it. You can send it to whoever you want with it. You can send it to a relative in like wherever, let's say Brazil, right? And do that like in seconds for pennies on the dollar, as opposed to going to Western Union and there being limits on how much you can send. And that's a thing. Like, and I see it more, I think, in South Florida because we have a lot of people, from South America that live here that send money home, right? And they battle with this and they're paying a huge fee. It's like they go to Western Union and Western Union takes these ginormous fees and like they have limits on how much you can send and how often you can send money. And like they can shut you down if you're sending money too often because it triggers, red flags in terms of, fraud or money laundering or blah, 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 even if that's not the case. So it's like anything else, there's all these things like these rules that are, for your own good and for the safety of the public, when a lot of times isn't really though. So crypto is what's the word I'm looking for? Breaking the chains somewhat of rules and regulations, which scares the shit out of people because people like having that cozy little FDIC insured bank money. And like, if if someone messes up, like the government will save me. Like, and that's a whole nother story in my, because me, I'm very high on personal responsibility. So I don't really like the whole, like someone else is going to bail me out thing. Because there's a price you pay with that and it's basically your freedom. but it's your freedom with your money. And people don't realize, like, since our economy is set up in a way where money is the main driver, money's the tool, right? Money is the
Mm-hmm.
tool to do 90% of the things you have, in life, and to provide for yourself and your family. You need that tool. By restricting our freedoms with money, the government is essentially has as much control of us as if we were in a, like, it's almost like stealth communism in a way. So, but
Mm.
that's going next level. So I just love the possibilities and all the different dynamics you have with crypto. So that's what really grabbed me and why I'm all in.
If you had to choose, sir, strictly real estate or strictly crypto investment, which one would you do?
It's funny you said that. So I had every second Saturday of the month I do there's a real estate meetup at a coffee house down here in Delray Beach that me and my buddy John host, and you know in that group I'm like kind of known as like the crypto guy now because I do that as much. And I had this conversation with a few people like later like towards the end when we just do like free networking, and I said crypto's gotten me to the point where like I don't even want to bother with real estate anymore.
Really?
But yeah, but I believe in diversification, and I also have a goal with Tim, our mutual friend Tim, in terms of number of units. So because of those two things, I still continue to invest in real estate. But and I'm actually going to probably say this at the speech in Orlando. So real estate has created the most millionaires in America. Although there's some chatter that the that insurance actually has done that, but most people
Mm.
know it as real estate. Um, I believe 50, 60 years from now, crypto is actually going to make a run at that title.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Bold statement, sir.
Well, I
Which,
mean, plus 50 years from now, I probably won't be here, so it's all good.
or you will be. And you'll be a
And with my
vampire
family
living
history, I
forever.
will be.
And you'll be a vampire living forever, hunting people.
No, I did not choose vampire.
I know. So let's go into some other stuff. We talked about the business and the finance. And I'm sorry. Can you bring up Mr. Ben's last comment, please, Matt? My rule is never invest what you can't afford to lose, and that goes for everything.
100%.
So let me ask you a question. Is investing tantamount to gambling?
Yes and no, because I mean, anything that's got risk reward, you can call gambling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, technically, you play the lotto, it's gambling. You do anything. I mean, you play bingo. Grandma goes plays bingo. Grandma's gambling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in essence, investing is gambling in a way because it's got risk versus potential reward. And, the whole point is you're putting in X amount of dollars to potentially get more, to increase that investment. So therefore it does make it a gamble. But I think that statement, that John said, is super prudent because you shouldn't invest what you can't afford to lose. It's no different with gambling. Don't invest what you can't. You don't gamble the rent money, just like you don't put the rent money in Tesla stock. You know what I mean? Hoping that it's going to continue to moon, or put it even worse into like freaking Shiba Uno or Dogecoin or all that stuff.
Yes, you're speaking a whole lot of French right now, sir,
Yes,
and I don't
exactly.
speak French.
Crypto coins, but here's the thing. When it comes to something that someone feels is risky, whether it's investing in crypto or buying some high flying tech stock, I always say Vegas money. Like whatever you would take to Vegas, that's the money that you put into that. Like, and
Okay.
if like that, and that's just I think the simplest and safest advice you can give somebody because they're never going to put themselves in a position to jam themselves up,
Yeah.
and you're not doing them a disservice because how do you answer that question? Especially when it's direct. I get that question a lot. Like, oh, should I buy some Ethereum or Bitcoin right now? And I'm just like, I don't know your financial situation. Like,
Right.
so I just say, I'm like, listen, whatever you take to Vegas, throw it in there, forget about it, look at it in 5 years.
So let me ask a question. And I don't remember if we had this conversation on air or off air last time. we were talking about my tattoos because we were talking about addiction, and I know we had talked about.
We talked about it, I think, on air.
Did we talk about it on air?
Yeah.
So let's say I could rewind back in time, but I had to lump sum of my tattoo money.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do it now. Let's say we could go back in time, get the money we have now. And I said, Mitch, what should I invest my money in? Should I invest it in real estate? Should I invest it in stocks? Should I go do money market, whatever? What would you say is the best thing for a person in my position to invest money in?
All right. Well, first, not financial advice. I'm getting used to saying the disclaimer now. I'm doing enough talks. But so I'm going to give you a generalized answer because a lot of that actually depends on what the amount of that money is. Because if it's not,
let's say it's $20,000.
Okay. I mean, with 20K, you could actually do real estate because, it's enough money for a down payment, depending on what type of loan you're doing and where you're doing that.
Right.
But the market's crazy right now, and that doesn't mean I think the market's going to go down. I just think that it's tough to make a good investment, good money right now with real estate, especially if you're working with a little bit of money like that. So,
right.
I wouldn't advise against real estate. Like if you can do it, do it. But I would definitely lean towards crypto in terms of it's your best scenario where it's the easiest thing to get your money into and out of in terms of speed. Because real estate, you're locking that money up for a minute. You know what I mean? Like even if you flip a house, you're still looking at minimum 6 months, right? But generally down payment, you're doing a rental property. So you're locking that money up for the long term and trying to get, 8, 9, 10% return on your money. But that's, kind of what it is. With crypto now, you have the ability to essentially look at it like putting your crypto in a savings account that pays an interest, except for that interest is like 10x what the bank pays. So because of that, I would lean someone towards, taking risk capital and putting that money into crypto and doing it in a way like you buy a little bit of Bitcoin, let's say, and a little bit of a couple other cryptos, right? That, have good promise or whatever. And then you take probably the other half, like the 10K, and you put it in what they call a stable coin, which is basically just the equivalent to $1. And you take that stable coin and you stake it on a site where you can earn a return. And those are all different. There's safer ones. There's mainstream ones like BlockFi, where I think you get 6-7%. But then there's some, offshoot ones, so to speak, like I invest on that one of my buddies actually started, and they're called AMAs, automated market makers. This is when you go down the rabbit hole more. So I won't go too far into it. But basically, you're providing liquidity for trading pools, and because of that, you do earn a much higher yield. So I earn 25% on my stable coin. So
wow.
Yeah, so I have about a third of my portfolio in that as a risk mitigation. Now, granted, a stable coin could also technically blow up if all of the crypto market goes to crap and whatever happens, and who knows. And so there's no guarantee. It's not like the U.S. government backing that stable coin. That stable coin being backed by either a business or whatever it is, or a conglomerate of crypto investors. But it's the safest thing as far as crypto goes that you can be in. So that's what I would do. I would break it up. I put half of it into stablecoin and stake it, and then I put the other half into just cryptos that obviously can go up and down in price. And I think your risk profile there is good because you're earning a yield on those stable coins that can offset fluctuations in Bitcoin, for instance. But you're not limiting your upside because Bitcoin has no, it can go wherever it wants to go in terms of the upside. And you're still bringing in that yield on the stable coin. So that makes me a big fan because I'm all about how do I want to get as close to risk parity as possible, which basically is a risk neutral position, which isn't really possible a lot of times. You can do it, but you need much more size. So that at least takes you closer to that risk parity, point. So yeah, I would lean probably towards crypto, but I mean, nothing wrong with real estate. Here's the real thing from all that though. I would absolutely not put it in a money market or even in the bank because it's sitting in US dollars, which are basically becoming worth less money every single day as inflation runs at like 5.3%.
Well, you and I have political conversations light, not political where we go deep into it
Yeah.
and all that stuff. We've talked about probably the last 3 or 4 elections. We've actually had conversations about, not necessarily who we were voting for, because it doesn't, that's never really mattered to me, but we've had conversations about it. And you made me think about some things where I was like, oh, that makes sense. So when you talked about the U.S. currency, and the thing that I find is very interesting is the U.S. deficit. And I know you have many ideas and beliefs and Pythagorean theorems about what's going on. So, in a nutshell, the U.S. deficit is around $3 trillion, right?
I stopped paying attention.
Okay, it might be like $3-4 trillion, and the largest percent of wealth, the most wealth, is in a few people. Do you think that, because you said the money's devaluing, and it really is, it's like at some point, the dollar is going to be worth what, half the euro dollar, half the pound, something like it.
Well, I don't even think that against other currency it matters, because those other currencies are being devalued as well. I mean, the joke is there was the race to zero, and everyone cutting rates. And I mean, it's funny, so when you called me, I was actually, like I said, I was putting together this presentation, and I was on this site that's called What the Fuck Happened in 1971. And
okay.
So in 1971 is when Nixon took us off the gold standard. So that's when every US dollar was, backed by equivalent amount of gold. That's when that stopped. And I'm gonna share a couple of these charts at that presentation, and it shows what happened in terms of not only the purchasing power of a dollar, but also in terms of wealth. That 1971 is when we started that divergence where the concentration of wealth started getting smaller, and now 1% owns a vast majority of the wealth. That started with that change in 1971. It's pretty crazy. So, that just proves the point in terms of the inflation, because the dollar's been inflationary since then. And here's one of the biggest differences between the US dollar and crypto is crypto can be deflationary. Now, when people hear deflationary, they think that's actually a negative, because you think deflation, down, smaller, shrink, right? No, a deflationary currency or deflationary, token means that the supply can actually shrink. So we all know the US dollar supply isn't shrinking ever. It just grows and grows and grows. And in 2020, basically 25% of all US dollars ever printed were printed in 1 year.
Right.
That's people want to know why the real estate and stock market, are at all-time highs after we just went through a pandemic. Why? Because they flooded the system with money.
Yeah.
They flooded it. So, is that mean we're in a bubble? I don't know. I just know that was the causation, So, if you think about that, right? 1971, that's 50 years ago. So people think this is the way the world works. This is the way the economy works. And my question is why? It's been a 50-year experiment. It's younger than most people's parents. I mean, it's younger than friends I have. And find me a 50-year-old anywhere that can't tell you something in their life that they always did one way, and then later in life they're like, you know what? There's a better way to do this.
Oh,
so why can't that hold true for our whole entire monetary system? And this is why I think crypto's got legs.
So when we talk about the stimulus packages, which I know you're huge, and Donald Trump was a huge fan of, and we've talked loosely about it. And again, full disclosure, me and Mitch have these conversations. It's more of a back and forth. It's not him educating me or me trying to educate him. I'll ask him questions about stuff because he knows more about this than me. So when we talk about this stimulus package and Congress and all this stuff that's just happened this last month, they were supposed to, I believe, was supposed to be proposing another bill, which was interesting. I don't know if they did, but they were supposed to be. But then they tried to stop the shutdown, so they had to have another vote. So first, this is like the third or fourth time in the last 5 years they've had to have an emergency vote. Am I wrong? This wasn't mainstay for a long time.
To raise the debt ceiling.
Yes.
It's actually been going on. I would say post 2000. I don't remember. I can't say for sure that it happened during the Bush administration, but it may have. But it's happened pretty much ever since. It happened in the Obama administration. It happened in the Trump administration. Obviously, it's happened in the Biden administration. And it's not even an administration thing. It's more of a product of our society and our government on a whole. Like, it doesn't matter who the F is president. Like, this is the way Congress runs our country. And the funny part is if Congress ran a business, that business would have been out of business years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's fucked up, because if anybody else did what the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve did, they'd be behind bars.
Yep.
But since they're the government, they're allowed to do it. It's your favorite line, and it's true. The U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. In the world.
Yeah. So when I wrote my book, Ponzi Schemes, and people were like, "What? You talking about like Bernie Madoff?" I was like, no. And what do I always? Everything's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
It's a matter of finding what is actually part of the construct. So, Mr. Munoz, can you bring up John Bent's last comment, please, sir, about the low income? Mr. Bent is from Canada. So, talking about real estate, and before we kind of had to put money into the house we're in, Mitch, we were talking about real estate.
Yep.
And it's the same thing, because I know people that were buying houses for $60,000 over ask.
Yep.
And it was destroying the real estate market. Because I watched a couple of real estate people, not anybody like in depth, and they were saying the same thing. Like, if I'm buying houses, and you know us, I'm in the Long Island market. So everything's already inflated.
Indeed.
Indeed. Your take on that, on it, and I'm sure you're probably like, woohoo.
Well, I mean,
it's
not
good
really,
on
because
bad on another.
If I had like 3 times the properties I have, then I would be like woohoo, because it's like, sweet, time to sell. I'm still like in acquisition mode. Which makes it tough, because that's why I don't even look in South Florida. I live here. I don't even look here, because the numbers make no sense unless you're going to turn it into an Airbnb. Like, the numbers make 0 sense, and I don't want to be in the hospitality business, which is exactly what you're doing if you have Airbnb. John's not lying with Canada. I got a friend that lives in Vancouver. Vancouver is next level ridiculous with the real estate. It's like some San Francisco type stuff. I'm really like, damn. And my whole thing is like, I was always like, all right, the market's got to top out, because we're going to have an affordability issue, right? And same thing even with like rents. I'm like, rents, like house prices and rents can't just go straight up forever, because it's called people can't afford it. Somehow people still afford it because there's demand. Like, I can't, if I list a unit for rent, I'm getting blown up. So it's not like it's not like there's demand. Like, somehow there's people that got the money. But what I find crazy with the real estate is, you not only do you have, because like, listen, this is what, like, the interest rate's dropping to like nothing at this point. I mean, you can get like, you can get a 30-year for like 2.5 now. Like, are you kidding me? Right. Mm-hmm. So with interest rates continuing to go down, that obviously makes houses more affordable, in that you can afford more now because your payment is less because of that lower interest rate, right? So now you can afford more house, right? But can you really afford it? No, you can afford to make a monthly payment. And that's kind of how we got in trouble back in the day. But also, you have things that are artificially pushing up real estate. Like, I don't think people realize, like, Zillow is one of the biggest buyers of single family homes in the country right now. And they overpay for everything. And then, like, people trying to figure out like what their play is here. Like, are they trying to like drag the market up enough so that they can unload a bunch of inventory that they have already at a profit, and then just break even on the rest? But like, they'll overpay for a house by like 50 grand, and then they'll list it back on the market like a month later, even higher than what they paid for. Unfortunately, it's starting not to work because a lot of those houses sit, the price gets cut, and then they end up having it listed for less than they bought it for. But it's like, well, they may lose a little money on that one, but all the other shit they already own, they help drag the market up. So, it's like it almost doesn't matter if mom and pop can afford the house, because you have basically these major corporations buying single family homes. Same thing with hedge funds. Hedge funds buy, BlackRock and huge hedge funds like that. They're buying, tranches of single family homes, thousands of them. So it's again, we had this conversation at the meetup this afternoon. As much as I think everything's overdone, I just don't see how things go down. I don't see how we get a pullback or why.
Well, and that's part of, kind of full circle where we started at. Started this part of the convo at. It's the U.S. It's the U.S. But we can $1,000,000 in deficit if we're making our own money. If me had a money making machine and we were like, all right, I was like, Mitch, I need 20. You were like, all right, and you gave me a couple of $1,000 and 20 every day. At some point, like, well, is this not worth 20? Is it only worth 17? Is it worth 15?
And that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's one of the charts. Like, it shows like the purchasing price. I mean, I'm going to have it. So ready, check this out. In 1971, let's see, the cost of living. So the cost of living was, I thought it was going to show me 71 and 2000. Oh, I thought it did. When you just look at inflation. So check this out. Inflation from 1971 to 2015 is a cumulative total of 2,326%.
Wow.
That is how much prices have gone up in 50 years. 2,326,000%.
That sounds like Elon Musk and Bezos' their bonuses every year they give themselves.
Right?
So,
I love it. I like they did a New York and Boston median house price.
What is it?
So it just shows like the growth rate. So, because it shows like, oh my God, that's crazy. It shows medium income. So ready, check this out. So in New York in from 1971 to 2017, total growth of income is just over 50%. Income, the median household income has grown 50% since 1971. So 50%. The cost of a house in New York is up 190%.
Yep. Does that surprise you?
But my thing is like, all right, so like I see that, and I'm like, all right, something's got to give. But you know what? Something needed to give 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So like, when's it going to give? And here's a statement that, I actually got quoted on today at the meetup, and it's more so was from day trading, but the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. It's crazy.
So,
John, to answer John's, I just saw John's little question in the corner. The average household income in 1971 in America was $10,300.
Jeez.
But that's also when, like, a loaf of bread costs like a penny.
I read somewhere, I was looking at Facebook, which is the bastion of information and wisdom. And I think it said, somebody made a meme and it said $15 an hour, which is the national, most places, the minimum wage, is starting to feel like $7 an hour, which is crazy.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it really is. And I mean, shit, this year we've seen prices skyrocket. I mean, gas is up $2, a gallon pretty much. People, so like I have friends, a buddy of mine owns a sub shop in Jersey, like right over the bridge in Jersey. And and there's a guy I actually know from my day trading days. And he was telling me the cost of, his food. So a case of chicken used to cost him like $39, and it costs him $71 now.
Jeez.
And this is just over like a 12-month span.
Yep.
So he had to raise all his prices. Like if you go to a sub shop now, like you're not pretty much getting a sandwich for under $10 anymore. Like those days are gone. And here's what people don't realize is that a lot of like crop based things, like a lot of like, farm produced things, those prices haven't gone up yet because you have contracts, right? And you're locked in, you're locked in. So all those contracts are expiring. So all of these producers are about to juice their prices. So we haven't even seen the real increase in food yet, even though we've seen an increase in food already. And they have to, because it's
I tell you,
business.
and like I said, like I was telling these are the conversations that me and Mitch have, and it's just funny how much we land in the same place, being on two different income levels, two different situations. Mitch is single. I got a family of 75, as he likes to say.
Yeah, you do.
Wife, kids, dog, and it's just him. But so many of the things that we land on are like so in step, and it's just funny because we've talked about the deficit a lot, and we were both like, when is the money going to start being monopoly money? It's just like, make it rain.
I mean, isn't there talk of like minting a like $1 trillion coin or something? Like, here you go, boom, there it is. Here's the $1 trillion coin. We're good. So I don't know.
All right, a lot of shop today. Let's talk about some funness, because word that Mr. Danny might be on a little bit. So Mitch, we're gonna wrap up with you and bring Danny in a little bit, so you can just talk until we get there. But one of the things I wanted to talk about with you that we didn't get to go into is, yes, you've written books about big real estate, but you actually, for a long time, wrote.
You froze on me for a second. I'm assuming you said wrote poetry.
I said I know you've written books about Bitcoin and stuff like that, but you actually are very prolific and are starting to get back into a prolific poetry writer.
I don't know about prolific.
Prolific, yes, you're a prolific writer. So show me the way. Tell me about the way of the Mitch.
I mean, I don't know. We might have talked about this a little bit, or I actually might be confusing it with another call. But I wrote more so, in my 20s because there was that fire. You know what I mean? Like I was a very emotional young man, and I would get wound up, and I would just spill words onto a page. So it was a lot easier to write back then because you had this emotional fire, and and as much as that was great for creative energy, it wasn't healthy. I'm so glad I matured and chilled out and emotionally grew, because I mean, you can grow up in a lot of ways, and emotionally is one of them, and emotionally is a way that a lot of people sometimes don't.
Yep.
That's probably as important, if not more important, than any other aspects of growing up. But so I wrote a lot back then, and a lot of it was that emotional frustration based poetry, whether it was with angst, whether it was with the opposite sex, or with feeling slighted, or feeling whatever it was, what I mean? Because whatever world you're in, whatever however you grew up, and whatever your picture of the world is, right? And I very much never felt like I had advantages, or knew somebody, or got hooked up, or any of that, and and that's changed in adult life with due to purpose, due to networking, doing due to all doing the things that basically set yourself up to succeed, right? But those are a lot of things that you don't do till you're an adult. I mean, you don't know those things as a kid. But so that's where a lot of that poetry stemmed from. It was just the dating, romantic stuff, and then and then maybe the frustration with society and life. So since I grew from a lot of that, I don't really write anymore unless it's on request. And I hadn't written in, honestly, it had probably been like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had recently reconnected with someone I knew from like 13 years ago, and that was the one thing we had in common. She wrote poetry, I wrote poetry, and that was when I was like still writing. I was like 28, 29, going to 30, and I forget how it came up, but I had written her a poem way back in the day, so it became a joke. So we had reconnected and caught up, and we really didn't know each other though. Like we hadn't spoken in 13 years, and we only briefly, spoke to one another. So I didn't know her too well. So it was like, all right, I got to know like a new person, and then it became a joke about writing a poem. So I wrote a poem for her again about her with this new person that I knew. And it was funny because I called it Relentless Passion. And the funny part was I joked and I called her Relentless, and I told her, I'm like, yeah, I have a friend like you. His name's Achilles.
What are you talking about? Please edify, sir.
Relentless. As I said on our call last week, that's your superpower, being relentless. So,
I mean, please for the inaugurated to the ways of me.
I don't know if you can actually describe it in words. It's just relentless. it's I'm trying to think of an example that's not like kind of frivolous, because
I like frivolous. That's all right.
The easiest example is basically like, I say you're my hero, and then you say no, you're my hero. I'm just whatever. I'm just a peon, and I'm like, then you're like, and I'm like, no, I'm Mighty Mouse, and then you're like, if you're Mighty Mouse, and whatever you come up, and you just won't stop until the other person gives up.
I've been told that once or twice before that I couldn't be persistent. I like to say, you say relentless, I like persistent.
I don't even know how you have the energy for it, considering you have 75 kids.
Well, after a while, the kids take care of themselves, sir. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
My computer was being a jerk. So, we have a lot of people that are fans of the movies and the stuff like that. Do you have like top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whoever favorite actors?
Oh yeah.
Who's your favorite actors?
So I have my 2 favorite actors. It's funny. It's like I'm an equal opportunity employer. So I have 2 favorite actors, and one is Chaz Palminteri.
Okay.
So, Goodfellas,
Yeah.
some other things. Yeah, he was even in the Chris Rock movie, Down to Earth. He plays the head. He plays God or whatever. And but Chaz Palminteri, and then Delroy Lindo.
Oh, okay, interesting. Why Delroy?
Yeah, I'm a huge Delroy Lindo fan. He's awesome. I liked him a lot in Malcolm X, where he plays, opposite a big part of that movie, opposite Denzel, when Denzel's in his he's playing the gangster stage of Malcolm X. That part of the movie, Delroy Lindo plays like a mob boss. He was in Gone in 60 Seconds. He plays the cop. He's chasing Nicolas Cage the whole time. What else? He played Aaliyah's dad in Cradle to the Grave.
Yeah.
So he's been in a ton of movies. And there's even there's more that I could list. I love Chaz Palminteri in Usual Suspects, which anyone that hasn't seen Usual Suspects, you're missing out on a classic. I mean, in fact, when I was in college, I was in an organizational behavior class, and we used Usual Suspects as our thesis for the class, and because the way that group comes together. And how it starts, and when they all end up in the same holding room cell together at the police station. So yeah, Usual Suspects is an awesome movie. Kaiser Sose. But yeah, those are 2 of my favorite. I mean, I have other actors that I'm usually a fan of any Statham movies. I just like his action movies. Obviously like. I like Denzel movies, but I'm not a Denzel fan to the level of Achille Carter.
To the Denzel fan at the level of who?
Of Sir Joker.
I dibble dabble in Denzel, like, you know, that's true.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
So
A
yeah,
itty
I
bitty
mean,
tiny whiny bit.
but then here's the irony: is if someone asks me what's like your like top three favorite movies, any of those actors, none of those actors are in any of the movies. Like my favorite movie ever, probably because I quoted it all throughout college and you heard it at NCLA. My favorite movie is Happy Gilmore. That's
Interesting.
comedy. And then my
Yes, you.
second favorite movie is Lethal Weapon 2, just because it has the greatest opening to a movie ever. You're like literally sitting in the theater, and then out of nowhere the screen comes on, and it's just
Yeah.
Mel Gibson punching the ceiling of the car as they're on a car. Like they start the movie with a car chase and him like going buck wild. I was like, epic.
Yeah. Sounds like you. Sounds like you.
Yes.
In a
So
nutshell.
those those are movies I'm a big fan of.
Any movies that you are looking forward to in 2021, sir? Or the end of 2021 going into 2022?
I can't say because I don't know what's coming out because you know me, I don't really keep up on that stuff.
Halloween Kills is coming out next week. Just saying.
Well, you know, horror is like my least favorite.
That's okay. I can't hold your bad taste against you because, you know,
I
you're a
should
great
find
man.
some new movies though. I can't keep like, you know, I can't. There's only so many times I can watch Old School.
Old School is a great movie, though.
You know what's actually a great movie that I haven't watched in like probably 15 years? That's a comedy, good comedy classic, and it was really early Ryan Reynolds because I remember watching it in college. Van Wilder. Van
Oh,
Wilder was a funny freaking movie.
yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time, though. But that's a great
So
movie. But he's, you know, and one of the things I like, he just always has such good timing.
yes,
I don't even know, not that he's not funny, but it's not that he's like overwhelmingly funny or in
exactly. It's
time
kind of
when
like
he
just the right
delivers it.
amount.
And I think that in real life, he's probably funny because there's some comedians that I don't think would be funny in real life.
Yeah,
But he's one of the people like I felt like if you met him, you'd be like, oh, he's a funny dude.
yeah, because it's more like casual almost.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a comedian where it's like almost like an onslaught. Like there's some comedians like I can totally see what you're saying about that because if they're on stage doing stand up, it's funny. But if they were like in a room doing like being like that, you'd be like, this guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I mean, speaking of stand up, I don't know how this popped up recently. I was in a conversation with someone and we were talking about stand up or whatever, and they were giving me like some new stuff because all I reference is throwbacks. And like to this day, like you know, like Eddie Murphy Raw, Eddie Murphy Delirious. Those are still two of my favorite stand-ups. Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer, and all these are from the 80s and 90s, which you couldn't even do those stand-up anymore. Like they would literally be vilified and like hung you know, on the cross for like making those jokes. But that's the society we're in now. You can't offend anybody.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy's his stand-up when he was doing it was just so pure, and that's what I liked about it. It wasn't like contrived or anything like that. It was like, oh, he's just fun. Like Chris Rock did Bigger and Blacker, Kevin Hart, whether you like Kevin Hart or not, his first special was awesome. And hold on one second, sir.
Yes, you do your technological things. I'm trying to think of any other comedy stand-ups that I'm a big fan of. I mean, there's ones I like, but those are just like the three that kind of like my top dogs.
So, in that light, because I know how much you love superheroes and superhero movies, did you see Dark Knight?
Like you're talking about like the first one?
Dark Knight, yes. Dark Knight was it.
Talking about like
Heath Ledger, yeah.
Why I just blank? Yeah, and well, I was thinking of Batman. Why am I blanking on his name?
Chris Nolan, not Chris Nolan. It was his movie. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Yeah, you talking about Dark Knight with Christian Bale?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it like 1,000 times.
Okay. Have you seen Suicide Squad? Probably not. The first one.
The first one, yes.
Oh.
You froze, so I don't know what you said.
Did you see Jared Leto's version?
Yeah, he played Joker in Suicide Squad.
Did you see Joker with Joaquin Phoenix?
I did not.
Okay, so that's gonna be homework for the next time you come on because I want to see which one of those.
I gotta be honest with you, that movie, like, I remember seeing the previews and everything, and I had like -1 interest to watch that movie.
I think you should watch it. You'd like it.
All right. I mean, I'm at the point now where the only time I see movies is if they're randomly on TV, and then I got rid of cable, so now like I can't even do that. So I really don't see movies anymore unless I'm like over a lady friend's house and we watch a movie. Like I actually watched. You know what movie I watched that was crazy? What was it called? Basically, it was the movie about the company that had to do the like insurance claim adjusting for all the people that died in 9/11.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's based on that true story. Yeah, Michael Keaton played the guy, and it was pretty wild. Like he was in a no-win situation because obviously, like, how do you put a value on? And there's all these arguments because you have like your executives and your people that are mopping the floors, and it was interesting. And who else was in it? There was another good actor that was in it. Oh my God, I don't know why my brain doesn't want to remember names right now. But anyway, it was called Worth. That was literally what it was called. I think it was called Worth.
Oh, okay.
But it was like, and it's not like it's it's not a documentary, but it's got that kind of like it's not like one of these movies that's like exciting. It doesn't have action, but it still kept your attention and had interesting storylines, and it was a pretty interesting movie. I don't know how we ended up stumbling on that, but that's what I watched most recently. What else? I watched Uncut Gems finally, just because I wanted to see Adam Sandler in that role, and obviously it was like gambling and sports. I'm like, well, I like all those things. That was actually disappointed me because everyone I talked to hyped it up for me because they were like, holy shit, like that was the best I've ever seen Adam Sandler do in terms of acting, like, and so it got me really amped up for the movie, and plus KG was in it, and I really wasn't a fan of the movie. Like it was just a lot of just arguing and running around.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I was just like, yeah, he did a great job acting, like, because you don't expect that out of Adam Sandler, but the movie itself wasn't. The ending was good though because it wasn't what you expected, and it was basically the non-traditional ending, which me, I'm a big fan. Like I'm always like, what's the trend? Yes, let's do the other thing.
Yes, that's the story of your life.
Exactly. That's why I don't have a dog or tattoos or a nose ring or any other things that the girls like.
You'll get an I Love New York tattoo. Mr. Mitch, I want to thank you for joining us. You guys that are watching, Mitch is giving away tickets to Orlando. If you're interested, let me know.
Not to Orlando, to the event in Orlando.
To the event in Orlando, whatever. You know what I meant.
Yeah, no, so real quick, if anyone actually wants to see what it is, just go to the website iBuildMillionaires.com/summit. So like, and it's the letter I, Build Millionaires.
Nice.
Yeah, .com/summit. And you'll find it. Like my buddy's running the event. I'll be there. So come hang out with me.
Mitchell, thank you for your time, sir. We are going to kick you out, but you can hang out in the waiting room. But the man of the hour has graced us with his presence and gotten his air conditioning issues under control. Nice. So, to bring on the comic book whisperer, the man who is a paragon of many things. He knows horror movies, which is amazing, and we're going to talk about some of his bad takes on movies that are horror persuasion. I don't know much about comic books, and just talking to him in a pre-interview, I learned a lot. I have watched Next Issue podcast where, we know he has other people show, but we know who really steals the show and who's really the man. He's been on the network quite a few times this week, and he was one of the co-hosts of Characters of Culture the other day. He is a man of many names, but we like to call him Danny, Mr. Danny Martinez.
Which camera? Oh,
all the cameras.
Dude, I'm over here acting like a diva. Like I can't make showtime. No. Fucking- oh man. Thank you for
That's cool.
accommodating. I want to thank Mitch for covering my ass, really, too.
No problem. I appreciate it, sir. So everybody who's being graced with Mr. Martinez's presence, we're going to split this into 2 episodes, most likely, because there'll be a part 2, a part 2.
I'm like a good movie. We might even make it a trilogy.
We couldn't. And as you all know, Mr. Martinez has a terrible affinity for Batman, but it's okay because my wife does too, and she's good peeps. So Mr. Danny's good peeps. So you had a lot going on today, Danny. What's up? What's new?
It's been a day. It's been a day, Sir Joker, but here we are. Got everything taken care of. You know, the hazards of being a responsible adult, and also being used to a certain life of a certain level of comfort when it comes to like the coolness of the house.
Yep.
So
I know when it gets too hot and I start sweating, I can't sleep, and if I don't sleep,
exactly,
it's gonna be because
exactly. But
it becomes a bad show. So we're gonna jump around a little bit and kind of talk about the stuff that we've been talking about. We want to talk about because you've been on 37 shows this week already.
I have.
So,
I mean, I've talked so much that I had to cancel my own show tomorrow. I'm out. I'm out of words. I told the girls. I told the girls I can't do it till the 17th. It's been weeks.
Let me ask you a question. How do your co-hosts on the Next Issue podcast, which I don't know when it comes on because I think you changed the day.
Normally we go live Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Central. So I understand whether we don't get a lot of live viewers because it is pretty early, but you know, we all got stuff to do, and that's just the time. So I guess to give you a little backstory, I didn't start this podcast. I joined in I wouldn't say maybe the end of 2018. My buddy and co-host Clay, I met him through our comic book club. He had a podcast, and he would do it. They would do it out of this like little radio studio downtown Dallas. And then they're like, you know, like they had me on as a guest a couple times, and then they came to a point where they wanted to change things up, and I guess they like what me and Josh, who was also who's another one of our co-hosts, and we're like, yeah, let's make something different with this, and we've been doing audio ever since, and then you know 2021 hit, and things have been different. We had been at home for a long time, and a lot of the technology to make stuff like this easier to develop, or at least I discovered it. And I was like, well, let's try out the old. We've always had a YouTube channel, but we never really uploaded much stuff. Like we have some old videos. They have some old videos of whenever. But I mean, this just makes it some more accessible. So yeah, it's been about 3 years now, almost 4, that we've been doing the podcast in different ways. And normally it's just there's 5 of us total, but we kind of rotate around on we like to have at least 3 people all the time, because I feel like this works because this is an interview like format where we go back and forth, but the podcast I want it to be more like a forum type of deal. So we like to have at least 3 people, so it doesn't just feel like I'm asking you questions, you're asking me questions. There's more of a debate, and we also have like a tiebreaker in case something you know. Was this a good movie, bad movie? I don't know, but we'll always have a tiebreaker.
Well, I know a huge part of your life is comic books, and we're going to go back to that. But we had brought this up during the horror movie discussion, and it's something that talking about, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about. So,
I know what you're talking about.
We sides of Brightburn.
Yes.
And we're both horror heads. Like we both love horror.
Yeah.
You might be more into like the comic book superhero stuff than me, but I do like it a lot. So I would say first, what did you think of Brightburn?
So leading up to the movie, I really thought it was an interesting concept, right? Because we always like to see the things we know get twisted around. And this was like, well, what if Superman was, from the get-go was kind of a bad dude? Like, who's gonna stop him? Especially in this world that they built, where there doesn't appear to be anybody else like him, right?
No.
So that, and then James Gunn was producing, and I think, was it one of his brothers that was writing the movie?
Sean Gunn was a co-writer on it.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. I mean, this has a good team behind it. And overall, when I went to watch the movie, I thought the story was pretty interesting. And there was a lot of aspects that I was like, okay, this feels like new ground. This feels like they could expand here. I feel like there were some ideas about how the world would receive a person like this that could have been explored more, where instead they kind of chose to focus on more of the violence. And that's kind of where I departed with the movie, where I felt like, okay, I personally, I feel like I would have liked it more if it had been more about this other ideas you presented, as opposed to just like, this kid's being violent. Especially in the movie, there's a lot of violence against women, and just at that time, it wasn't what I was looking for in a movie. So that's the main thing. I feel like sometimes that stuff, like especially with horror, is more like don't show me everything. Let me try to figure some stuff out. Let me try to imagine some things, and I think that could be scarier sometimes. So yeah, that was my main issue with the movie. That it gave me a lot of ideas. They just kind of chose not the wrong ones. They didn't choose the ones I connected with to focus on.
Do you think it was overkills?
Yeah, I mean, especially that scene at the diner with the like that's the one where I was like, oh, this feels like a lot. So
I think the one also, sorry, spoilers for Burn. When the cops came to the house, and he just destroyed the sheriff and destroyed the tags, and it was just like, oh, that was crazy.
Yeah,
it was a lot. How do you feel about how the mom died versus how he died?
Oh man, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I kind of disconnected with the movie, so like I don't, because I haven't gone back to rewatch it ever since. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember all the fine details of like all that stuff. I just remember leaving. I'm like, yeah, this is not what I was looking for. Because I feel like there's definitely an interesting story to tell about Superman. I mean, Superman's such a versatile character. Like you can kind of put him through any lens.
Do you think part of it was that because the guns were handcuffed by the fact that they couldn't say it's Superman and they couldn't use any of the Superman kind? They had to make it Superman without it being Superman. Do you think that was one of the things that kind of held it back?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
they've made other they made stuff before, like James Gunn directed that movie Slither, that it's great horror. Like it's just really cool, and it's got and it's weird and it's goofy at some points, but I mean, so you could kind of tell. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the director in this. I like, they really put him on the marketing a lot. So like, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna pin the movie on him as well, kind of, right? Because as a studio, you're telling me like, yeah, this is all kind of like, in this area. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I think there's been a lot of really cool stories where we just use a facsimile of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, like of those characters, and then they work.
So you think more development should have went into it?
I mean, I'm still interested. Like, if they would have made some kind of sequel, because at the end, once again, spoilers for an old movie. At the end of the movie, they presented a lot of ideas of maybe there's others out there, like
Mm-hmm.
not exactly like him, just other peoples with different powers. So I wouldn't mind them expanding on that universe. Like, that would be cool. Or like, what does this kid grow up to be? Like, does he
Mm-hmm.
rule? Does he rule Earth? Does he become like this emperor of everything? Like, what happens there?
Mm-hmm.
So there's still, I would have gone back to watch more of this universe because I know they would have had to do something different than the first movie.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I probably didn't like so much was you're a Batman fan, I'm a Joker fan. There was no counter to him that they presented. Right. There might have been one that we don't know, but there was not. So one of the things that I find when you have people that are so powerful that nobody can, there's no hope for anybody to even potentially stand up to them or kill them or anything. I think that was one of the things that, to me, limited the movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the kid needed a foil that was just something like some kind of reflection. Like his as much as I really enjoyed, I think it was Elizabeth Banks as his mom.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think she did a great job, but I don't think she wasn't a good foil for him. Like, I don't think she was ever something that. Yeah, I don't know that she was going to stop him.
No,
because that's just not the story they wanted to tell. They don't want to tell the story about. They want to have a redemption story for this kid. Like, maybe he learned at the end of the movie, and like, if he does a lot of, even after all the bad shit he did, like, if they wanted to redeem him and then move the franchise along, and maybe that's how he became a proto Superman in his world, that still would have been an interesting story as well, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, like I said, the fact that there was no there was no one that could possibly, because it didn't seem like the other super alien type creatures were against him. It seemed like kind of teamed up and just wreaking havoc.
Yeah, I mean, with Superman, other than just like kryptonite, like his villains exploit his compassion and how much he cares. Mm-hmm. But if that's this kid didn't care about anything, so like, what is somebody to exploit? So
that's good. That's good. I want to get into that conversation.
So there it is. There's the payoff for those coming from Thursday's show.
Yes. So me and Danny teased this combo.
Yeah.
Being something that we talked about. We talked about Dark Knight. I know you had mentioned you wanted to talk about Dark Knight.
I thought that's when you were going to bring me in.
No. I can't see you. I couldn't see you in.
Yeah. Then I think we figured that out when.
Then Matt was being selfish, and he wanted to be the hero, of course.
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah, Matt, the man.
Always. The man behind the curtain.
Yep, the driving force. He's don't look at that man behind the curtain.
That's right.
We can talk about Dark Knight a little bit. I know you wanted to touch on it. You being a huge Batman fan. First of all, in terms of, I wanted to talk about comic book movies that are actually good movies. Let's talk about Dark Knight. So, I'll let you lead where you want to go, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, so Dark Knight is my all-time favorite movie, comic book or not, like just from any movie. It was for a long time, it was Gladiator. But then the Dark Knight came out, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. It's been man, I can't even think of how many times I've watched that movie, but yeah, it feels like it grounded Batman so much, made it real world. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but you can have all the stories, right? You can still keep all the comic book stuff. Just read the comics. You can have a more grounded Batman. You can go back and watch the old campy Batman and the reruns of the 1966 stuff. I love that stuff. I love the 1966 TV show. It was my first. Yeah, Patty came at the right time. It was
I
my
made.
first introduction to Batman and the Rogues and Robin and Batgirl, like everything. It was exciting
Yeah.
because I was a young kid watching these reruns, and not having read comics before. Like okay, that was Batman until Tim Burton made a
Yeah.
Batman movie.
Yeah.
Um,
What when we look at Scarecrow, who was probably Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Joker, and Bane. How do you feel they, kind of made the arc for Batman in the Dark Knight series?
Well, I think one of the big themes in the trilogy was escalation, and I think they going back and when I like Batman Begins, but when the Dark Knight came out, I went back, and when you go back and rewatch it, I feel like the movie gets better because you understand. I don't know if you've ever seen The Prestige, which is another Christopher Nolan.
I know what you're talking about. I have the idea. I never saw it though.
Yeah, so in that movie, the magician explains that you have maybe in the chat they can help me out. It's like the setup, the turn, and then like the reveal or something like that. You have it's a 3-part of storytelling, and that's what Nolan was doing with this trilogy, right?
Yeah.
You have Batman Begins with all the foundational stuff to introduce Batman to a whole new audience, and then reintroduce Batman to the returning audience that came back from maybe the Burton or the Schumacher movies, or just the animated show. Yeah, I was gonna check it out, but then you have and it telegraphs everything it's gonna do. Like if you go back and watch the end of Batman Begins, it's Commissioner Gordon and Batman introducing the Joker. Like they don't show the Joker doesn't show up, but they introduce the concept of the Joker and escalation, right? And then I remember I went to when that movie I Am Legend came out with Will Smith. If you went to the IMAX screening, you could watch the first 5 minutes of The Dark Knight like months before it came out. And I Am Legend was fine. I like Will Smith movies. Any movies in, I'll probably check it out.
Yeah.
But I mainly went because I wanted to check out the first 5 minutes, and then you get the bank scene, which is one of my favorite introductions in any movie ever. Like, as much as I enjoyed the Bane introduction in the next movie, like the bank scene is just super cool, right?
Yes, I love the bank scene, and I like how it kind of paints the picture of how Joker does stuff. It's chaos. It's like, okay, when Danny's done filming this, kill him. Or when this one's done doing this, kill him. Like, it's very cutthroat. And the Joker is very cutthroat in a subtle way.
Yeah, this Ledger's Joker is very disarming with his whole I'll make them think I'm insane, but I'm not.
Right.
But that's his whole shtick. Like, he shows up looking like he's a man without a plan.
Yeah.
But he's like 10 steps ahead of everything that's happening. He shows up the mob and he takes half their money and then all their money and ends up, and he's not driven by greed or vanity or any of that stuff. If he wasn't a sociopath, he could be a hero.
Yeah.
Right?
He and that's really interesting because if you think about what he presents in contrast to Batman, they are very much same person.
Yeah,
not completely, but they're very much the same person.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and that's why I think his character is very interesting in a different way than Leto and Joaquin. A lot of people don't like Leto. I think Leto was fine. Whatever. He didn't have a real.
I think he didn't have enough time. He didn't have enough time to show you, what his Joker is really about. Right? He gets like maybe 2 full scenes and then little bits here and there. where we had a whole movie with Jack Nicholson, we had a whole movie
Yeah.
with with Heath Ledger. Joaquin had his own movie by himself.
He was in. I think they said he was in like 98% of the scenes
Right.
and stuff like that. And it's like, yes, I get that, and
Yeah.
that's important. But I think because if you fast forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League, when Leto and Ben Affleck are there having their back and forth, that's a very Batman Joker back and forth.
Oh yeah.
I didn't like the one part about the reach around because I think that's
I think it's turned up to like 11 because Zack Snyder has this very specific filter he likes to put things through, and I think that line felt like early 2000s for me, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of that's what he was going, like they shot that whole entire thing after that was one of that was like the biggest one reshoot they did. Everything else was kind of VFX and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, right? The Joker, that Jared Leto's Joker has been kind of inconsistent because it's come from two different creators who have very different movie making styles. And although it's the same actor portraying them, like they were both trying to go for different. And even then, like I guess we don't really know if it's the same Joker. It just looks the same.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's interesting stuff there. I think Jared Leto's he's a great actor. I think he's weird. He's a weird person. I will say that. But I remember I've been to 30 Second to Mars concerts before they were like even before Fight Club and any of that stuff. Like right before Jared Leto was making movies and stuff. Like I've been to watch 30 Seconds to Mars, or maybe it was a little after. But yeah, they were on like a second stage. Where like 10 people were watching.
Yeah.
So
and he's
cool.
Very talented musician too.
Yeah.
Very talented musician. But to go back kind of to the Dark Knight, do you think the movie would have been better, worse, or just totally different if Heath Ledger had been in Dark Knight Rises? Because I don't think Bane would have been as big a part.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that I tend not to speculate because I mean, whatever happened, right? Unfortunately, Heath Ledger passed, and his role now. I guess we had to move on. I know in the novelization of the movie, there's a passage where they allude to Joker is the only inmate that Bane didn't break out of Blackgate because he knew, like, right. So there's your canon explanation of why the Joker wasn't around. Like Bane knew that he could throw a wrench in his plans because he knows he could also be an adversary. He didn't need any more trouble.
No, because I think he could have very easily ended up not being.
Yeah,
he could have been a bad guy, but he would have been a bad guy against Batman and against Bane.
I almost imagine that the movie would have had to start with Bane trying to take down Batman, kind of like how the movie started. But then they would have ended up having to maybe team up because Joker pulls some shit and now like and it doesn't benefit either Bane's or Batman's goals to let him win.
Yes.
I feel like it almost would have happened. Maybe that would have been the story they tell. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been interesting, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it is what it is. But I like the Dark Knight Rises. Just like I enjoy it a lot too. I think I'll almost rewatch it more because I feel like they play it on TV more than the Dark Knight for some reason. It's probably cheaper to play because it's not the Dark Knight, right? So yeah, I love that airplane scene at the beginning. I like the whole the scene at the stadium when it gets blown up.
Right.
It's just super cool. Yeah, I mean Nolan's one of my favorite directors. So,
and Nolan's very smart.
Yeah,
like the whole literary background, and I just was watching the making of and the Tale of Two Cities and all this stuff, and parables and all. If you really sat down and dissected all the stuff in the Dark Knight, it's a lot.
and it pulls from the Dark Knight pulls a lot from uh what's it called,
The Long Halloween.
the Long Halloween. Thank you. God, I can't believe I forgot that. But the Dark Knight Rises pulls a lot from No Man's Land, which is like it was like a year-long event in the comics where like yeah, Gotham was cut off from everything. Like, it was cut off
Mm-hmm.
from the government, and the vigilantes had to stay hidden because all the rogues kind of split up Gotham in territories. It was Armageddon. So this wasn't as this was more grounded like the other
Yeah.
movie, but Bane, I think Tom Hardy did once that you figure out what voice he's trying to do of that boxer. I think it was a British boxer that he was trying to do the voice. He's done it on a few shows and they've shown the clips. Um yeah, it sounds a little weird, but I think it adds the atmosphere to the movie. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a good trilogy. I think I'm a person that believes in that happy ending that Alfred does see. Like, he really is there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's just like my glasses half full for the most part. So
I think I like happy endings ish. I think what I saw with like Brightburns and the Infinity Wars and stuff like that is that the unhappy, unfinished ending leaves you jarred. And I think that's I like Joker. I like that ending. And we can talk about Joker in a second, because I don't like, I shouldn't say don't, I didn't necessarily like Joaquin as the Joker. I liked him as well as Arthur Fleck. Okay. I don't think he had enough time as the Joker. So, similar to Leto in that he couldn't really show where he's going.
Right.
But I like that it was unnerving. And I like that it was like, oh, this guy's still running free. Because I think those types of endings are impactful.
Yeah, I remember I went to watch that movie with some coworkers, and we were standing outside the theater after we were done watching Joker, and we came to the consensus that had we had the time, we would have gone back in there and watched the movie again.
Yeah.
Just to like go back and kind of like figure out all the little details that they set up. You know?
I didn't like it as much the first and second time I saw it. I had to see like 3 or 4 times to really be like you said, to really get to it and really get on board.
Make all the things click. The other thing I like that so in the ending, one of the things I enjoyed the most was the idea, and this is just kind of my own headcanon, my idea that every time he talks to somebody in that room, he tells them a different story of like how he became the Joker, and that could be a second Joker movie could just be him retelling that story in a different way.
Yeah.
John Gibbon, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, we'll talk to Rob.
Sir Joker, Danny, Patty, and any other Batman nerds debate about best Batmans and Jokers. Well, you mean best Jokers and Batmans, but I understand what you're saying, John Gibbon. We'll work on it. I have to get Patty to want to do a show, but I think the rest of it, I don't think it's.
Leave a comment for Rob. He loves feedback.
Yes, please. The Gingerbread Man. That would be totally fine. Me and Danny have been pontificating on doing a full episode when we talk about Jokers.
Yeah,
I know movies more than I know the comic books, but still. Oh, brings me to my next question that I was going to ask you anyway. Good segue, Mr. Big Ben. You should be the host. Your favorite portrayal of the Joker? It could be comic book. It could be movie. Now, no, I might not know the comic book version you're talking about, but comic book, movie, whatever. What do you think is your favorite portrayal?
I think the one I like the most is probably it kind of depends, but because the most versatile and most, I guess, developed is definitely Mark Hamill's Joker from the animated series. But I just feel like the stuff Heath Ledger did in The Dark Knight, like even if it's just a limited time,
Yeah.
it's like a little taste of what you could have gotten.
Yeah.
So I think it would be. And I mean, I've thought about this since we first kind of discussed some pre-questions and pre-interview.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can pick one from the other. I think they're both so special in their own way. If I was forced to answer the question, like I would say maybe Heath Ledger.
That's a
But
great
yeah,
answer.
Mark Hamill does such a great
Uh,
job. It's so but it's not a. It's definitely not as consistent as Ledger as far as like because it depends on who's writing the episode that the Joker's in, right? And then the animation changes throughout the series, so it's not as consistent. But I mean, Hamill's performance is always pretty consistent
Yeah.
as to what he's trying to get across. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Ledger for sure. I mean, I uh, I got I got pops everywhere.
Oh, nice. I
There's
have
a
to check.
the
It's
little
pretty
Heath
fun.
Ledger. This is one of my favorite ones because this one was hard to get, and then they released a few more a couple years ago. And instead of having to pay an arm and a leg for it, I just bought it at a regular price. So, um,
That's cool.
yeah, that one's one
I
of my
got a toy
favorites.
connect though, so I'm gonna be hitting them up for one of those.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say names, Mr. Munoz. Next question, and we talked about this a little bit when we were, before the show when we were doing our pre-pro meeting.
Yo.
WandaVision is doing an Agatha Harkness.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What do you think about that, and how do you feel about that?
Oh, I love it. 10 years ago when I started reading comics, had you told me we were going to get all these movies and TV shows and stuff, I would have been like, no way. There's no way. Or 20 years ago when I first started like watching, like I would, I love going to the movies. It's one of my favorite pastimes. So,
yep.
So like just the fact that they've been making movies like, and I think we owe a lot to Blade.
Yeah.
Blade paved the way.
It's one of my top 3 comic book movies.
For the X-Men and the Spider-Man to do their thing. Yeah, so I mean, I'm in love with content. I don't think comics are so versatile too that I understand why. I don't want them to be just IP farms where they're like, but it doesn't feel like that's what's happening. It just feels like people are discovering, oh wait, this is a great storytelling medium, and it's very adaptable to some of the more lucrative storytelling mediums. So yeah, give me all the shows. Give me a show about give me a show about the guy that what's his name from Falcon and Winter Soldier that was helping Falcon, Torres from Torres. Give me a show with him. He's got the wings now. He's gonna be doing cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Agatha Harkness. I love Catherine Hahn. Like she was great in the show. And they can do some weird stuff. They can even keep it in that little town that she's in, or they can do some weird magic stuff. They really open the door to like make anything happen. So,
well, yeah, between What If, and we can talk about that in a minute if you want. But between the What Ifs and the shows and the movie, it's
and all the variances and stuff from Loki and they just it's truly an infinite possibilities.
100%. You can pop that up.
I see a good question. See a good question.
Do they both like Wolfgang? So any less known publishers that Danny might be into and want to shout out? Danny, you can answer the second part of the question first. Because I want to talk about comic books because I know you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Then we can do the DC Marvel thing. So let's talk about comic books. So you can answer his question first, and then we'll come back to the DC Marvel thing.
Yeah, every week I pick up around 10 to 15 books from the shop, and they're not all DC and comics. I love Image. I think anything that's creator-owned stuff, like that's just outside of, and it doesn't have to be specifically outside of superheroes. Like they make superheroes comics that are not made by DC and Marvel. But I've also in the past couple of weeks I've been pretty lucky that I am working now with Image Comics and Vault Comics and who else? Boom Studios.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more, and I'm gonna feel bad if I don't remember. Um, I'll I'll think about it in a minute. They're
Okay.
sending they're I'm looking up that they're sending me stuff in advance to read. Um,
So, how do you
they're
get on
sending
like
me
that
previews.
list? Do you
So
like
so
have like
I
a signal that you shoot out with a comic book logo or something?
I wish it's so. Oh, and the last one is Valiant Comics, which
Yes.
they focus on very much superheroes that are outside the universe. So um I started with we started doing stuff in the channel like just comic reviews, and I would just review stuff that I would buy myself. Sometimes creators would ask on Twitter like, hey, does anybody want to read this book in advance or whatever, and I would just hit them up. Like I feel like you don't get any, like if you don't get asked then you're not going to get anything. So like
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing they can say is, oh no, sorry, this is only for like journalists or whatever, right? Or media or whatever. um, but because I've been doing reviews, I think since we started doing reviews on the channel for comics, I have about 80 videos now of reviews.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. So I've I've applied. I'm not a very good writer, um, but I did apply to a few places. Oh, yeah, yeah, especially compared to you, Sir Joker. Uh, I did. I sent in like there's a lot of websites that would do like they're looking for collaborators, or like they're looking for just people to submit reviews and stuff, and they would the trade-off is that there's usually no payment, but you get to read the comics in advance. So
Mm-hmm.
there's your trade-off, right?
Mm-hmm.
um I didn't hear anything back. I did get some feedback from a few places where like positive feedback as far as like things I could improve, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, obviously I can't do anything right now with all of these other platforms, but what I can do is just do it. I have a YouTube channel, I have access, we have a website,
Mm-hmm.
I can do something. And I started writing reviews, and it was cool, but it didn't feel like with what I wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, well, why don't I feel like when I write, I just kind of write like I talk, which doesn't always translate to the page.
Mm-hmm.
But on the videos, like I can edit stuff, and if there's something with the timing, like, so I just made videos of me reviewing comics, and a lot of people do that. And then once I built enough of work, I started sending emails to the companies like, hey, we have a small YouTube channel. We do comic reviews. Here's a few comics that I reviewed for stuff that you guys are putting out.
Mm-hmm.
All these I'm buying myself, but it would really like it would allow I would be allowed to make more if we got some advanced reviews, right? And yeah, so a few of them they're very quick turnaround, and the ones
Wow.
that responded very quickly. The ones that didn't respond, it just probably because I didn't have a good contact. Because that was the one thing I did spend the whole weekend doing research of like, okay, who do I have to reach out to
Right.
get stuff? And I mean, you guys know a lot. You probably follow a lot of content creators on YouTube. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you've heard sometimes they don't get screenings for movies or TV shows, or sometimes they just can't get it, and it happens. And it's kind of the same. Like I didn't expect to get everything, but I'm lucky enough that um, four publishers are sending me stuff, and now I get to read some cool stuff in advance, and I get to recommend to people like, hey, you should go get this now. Like I've already read it; it's good. So if
Wow.
you subscribe to my channel, I think it's because you probably like the stuff that we like. So because that's what's on my channel. It's just the stuff that we like. Like
Mm-hmm. That's
there's no like I'll make random videos about random stuff because that's what I'm interested in.
no, but that's what
So
it is.
yeah, so it's been paying off. We've been growing the channel, and like I said, it felt validating to the work that we've been doing for months. When we got a publisher to say, yeah, here's our distribution list. Welcome, thank you for doing reviews for us. So yeah, that was cool.
Oh, so much, so much, so much. Um,
So that was the second part of the question. We can now go back to the first part of the question if you want.
oh, I have two more comic book related questions.
Sure, sure.
if you were making your own comic book, draw, because you actually are a very gifted artist, and
Thank you.
sadly, we're not going to be able to cover all that is Mr. Martinez today.
That's you need a 30 for 30 series or something like that.
We need like a 5-hour marathon.
Yeah. Like the U multi parts.
We should. I think we'll do that. We'll have to look into the next one soon. If you were creating your own comic book, like drawing it, and, all of that stuff, do you have like something it would be like? Do you know? Would it be a horror comic? Would it be a superhero? Would it be a spy? What would your own comic book look like?
I think one of my favorite parts about superhero comics and comics in general, it's kind of like and this may not be the most popular thing for everyone, but the downtime. Like I love watching superheroes do like normal stuff, like hanging out, talking, like what are they doing in between saving the world? I find that really cool. So I think if I were to make a book, I would try to focus on something like it would be like a slice of life half type of book with some maybe superhero stuff added in it, like in a superhero world or whatever, something like that. I don't think it would be something. I would need to explore more of what really makes a superhero in a story like that. But I feel like it would be easier for me to approach a story of like a slice of life story, because that's just kind of like telling anecdotes to your friends and stuff like that. So I think that's what it would be about. It would be just about like what are these superheroes or these people, or maybe like a superhero's best friend. What's their life like? Like what do they have to put up with or something like that. So yeah, I mean I've thought about it, but like I said, I'm not a very good writer. And I don't have, as much as I enjoy drawing and I appreciate the compliment, I don't. There's a certain skill that you need to visualize the panel by panel art.
Yeah,
I think a lot of my images are, as much as I like doing them, they're very static, and I need to practice more on like being more fluid and movement, because a lot of the like comics, a good comic artist will move your eye like from throughout the page to get you to where you're going. Also a lot of pacing with story, like as a writer, I'm sure you dictate the pace of your books, right? That's not and that's a skill you have to refine. It's not something you could just do. So
this is the question that had you stumped during the pre-interview. And I know we talked about it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comic book?
Yeah, so I did think about this a lot, and I'm gonna go back to when I started reading comics.
Okay.
Because I think that's kind of what put me on the path to where we are here today. So it was wind back to 2012, spring 2012. So we had just gotten The Dark Knight was already my favorite movie. I was looking for Batman content, and DC Comics, they announced that they were going to relaunch Batman. They had relaunched Batman. I think there was maybe like 5 or 6 issues out already. They really relaunched. They relaunched the whole universe with the New 52. So yeah, I picked up Batman. I went to my shops, or I went many shops actually, to look for issues 1 through 5 or 6. Because like I said, I started a little late. And at this point, I didn't know how to buy comics. Like it's like I didn't know that there's different like storylines or different, like there's many Batman books being printed at all times, right? It's not as straightforward as just like, yeah, give me the Batman book. Like, okay, which one? So yeah, but it's the Batman run with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo on art. The relaunch of the New 52, and yeah, I love that series so much. It lasted for like 5 years, so it's a long series. I think it's about 50 issues or so. And I have them. I have them all, and it's sitting in my collection. And I've met both of the authors. Oh, thanks, John. Yeah, I met both authors that worked on the book, and I've gotten some
Mm.
stuff signed and just kind of follow them throughout their careers. But yeah, it's kind of what introduced me to comics.
Yeah, that's a good point. As a static, I can get that. I think his style would make for some wicked album. Have you
Yeah,
thought that?
I've had people ask me if I could do like a cover for them,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them that I need to work on my coloring because I think I have a pretty good grasp of the black and white. So,
Mm.
um, but with colors, I still struggle with lighting and shading and stuff like that. So I'm working on some of that too. And I mean, having a digital, doing stuff on the iPad makes it really easy
Mm.
to mess up and then fix it. So
Yeah.
it's very forgiving. So yeah, but yeah, I've had I've had one person ask me to illustrate their book,
Mm-hmm.
like a children's book, and I was like, oh, I don't know if that's my style. Like, um, so I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this for you. But I've thought about making a children's book too. Like, it's in my head, like just something digital too. Like, um, I was thinking of maybe like a Halloween book or a Christmas book.
Oh, that'd be
So
cool.
maybe stay tuned for that because it's something that I've been like every time I go for a drive, I start thinking, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how can I do more creative stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Because the day to day, I don't get to do a lot of creative stuff at work.
Mm-hmm.
It's more critical thinking and numbers and stuff. So that's why the channel and the drawing and then all that other
Mm-hmm.
stuff, it's what kind of gets me out to do other stuff and helps me work on my other side of the brain.
Mm. Look at the deep and profound answers on Everyday Experts today. DC or Marvel guy?
I love both. I don't, I don't, I understand why that question exists.
Mm.
I'm not a big fan of that question because
Okay.
I like both so much. Like, I love the X-Men. I'm reading too many X-Men books, if anything. Yeah, they both have cool characters. I think if if I had to choose, Batman's my favorite overall. So like, if I could only have one, then let me have the DC stuff. I've said before, and this might be a hot take. If we could only have one movie universe, I would pick the DC as many ups and downs that it's had. I would keep all the DC movies because I love the Marvel movies. I love the MCU. Um, but I feel like because of the structure and it does feel at some point like it's kind of it's coming out of this really cool factory that knows exactly how to make this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's good stuff, it's fun stuff, it's entertaining. But the DC movies feel more like handcrafted stuff. Like they're all a
Mm.
little different. They have issues, they have errors, mistakes. They're not perfect, and not everyone's gonna like them,
Yeah.
but they connect more
Yeah.
with stuff. So
I can
so
see
yeah,
that.
I guess I would say a DC guy, but my real answer is I don't need to pick. I like all of. Give me both. Give me more of both.
As far as me, everybody assumes I'm a DC guy because I like the Joker. I like good content, and I know that sounds like a cop out answer, but I'm not more DC or more Marvel. I feel like the issue with Marvel is that you feel compelled that you have to watch it all,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that can be wow. Oh, I have to watch this, and I gotta, and I didn't feel like I had. The only things I think I saw Agents of Shield until season 6 or 7. Then I was just like, I can't do it anymore. My eyeball's gonna fall out my head.
Yeah, that show suffers from what I like to call the network demand that you have to
Yeah,
have 22 episodes.
yeah,
Because then you get a batch that's a
yeah.
third of it is really good, a third of it is fine, and then a third of it is just like, oh, we needed more episodes, huh? Got
Yep.
it.
Do you I know we said we were going to talk about what if, and I'm
Well,
going to go back.
before we move on from that, I do have a
Okay.
question for you.
Yes, sir.
Uh, I don't want to ask you when the first time you saw the Joker, but I want to ask about that moment where you knew like, oh, this is my dude. Like,
Um,
what was it that made it click? Like, okay, I'm in for the
the long,
collections and the tattoos and changing my name and like,
um, That's a good question. I never even thought about it. It was probably Dark Knight
Okay.
because I like Nicholson's Joker, but he didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
It was probably Dark Knight, like Caesar Romero. They were all fine, but to me,
Yeah.
they were all like, oh, let's be silly, da, 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 da. And I feel like what we started to talk about with Heath Ledger's version is that whole, and we were talking about this on Characters of Culture, the sociopath versus psychopath.
Yeah.
The whole calmness of him, and that you very rarely saw him. He yelled like 4 times in the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Batman yells way more.
He said what?
Batman yells way more in that movie.
And you see Batman get pushed so much, and you're just like,
mm-hmm.
And even when he's holding up to people in the police station, oh, I just want my phone call. And it's just, he's so calm.
Well, he's so funny too when he's clapping in the cell.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that.
And that's why I don't associate him as a sociopath. I think that he's so calculated and so meticulous and all. You're just like, oh, he already knows everything that's going to happen. You know, him wanting to get caught and him all this stuff. Even when he tells the stories about how he got his scars, it's never really emotional. You know, it's like, let me tell you how I got these scars. It's almost as if he has so many personalities. And I know they say that Batman's really in an insane asylum. That's one theory, and that these are just people that come and visit him and all that stuff.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, have you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
That Batman,
I think I would read. Well, actually, there is a comic that kind of goes there a little bit. The Last Night on Earth, where, it's kind of like that. I don't know if you've watched Buffy. There's an episode that's kind of like that, where Buffy is in an asylum, and all the people in the show play people that work at the asylum, or she's there, like other patients and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and in the end, she has to choose between getting better as a patient, or going back to the world of like the show.
Yeah.
And then you kind of never. I don't remember if they have a clear answer, but I remember that's a really cool device. So I think, I like this. I like the same framing for Batman.
I also, and I talk about Lego Batman all the time. People think I'm weird because I think that's the best relationship for Batman and Joker because it's the truest.
Yeah.
It's the truest one. Mm-hmm. Like, what happens when Batman's done? And he's done, killed everybody and all that stuff. And he doesn't have someone to chase.
Yeah.
Like you said, what is he doing between shows? What, like, is he shooting? Is it Batman at Walmart? Is it
right?
Is it Batman at the car wash? Is it Batman in his tire? Like stuff like that. They pull the Batmobile up to Hess, like put the $1.25 in and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting. And he needs the Joker in order to keep being Batman without breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things. He could be chilling with Alfred. Even that would become passe for him. That would become boring. That would become dull.
Yeah.
You don't fight crime for 30 years and then you know what?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that a little bit with the Ben Affleck Batman, where he can't stop, right?
No.
He can't, he's in too deep, and at this point, he needs Batman as much as the people need Batman.
Yeah. And at some point, he lost his identity, and he got lost in being Batman.
Yep.
Then we go into how Robin got killed and all that stuff. And whatever.
It's a story I still hope we get at some point somehow in a comic, in an animated show. Like, I want to know what happened.
Oh.
I need to know a little short of what happened with Robin.
Yeah.
I would even read it in prose, and I'm not a book guy.
I see.
I have one more question before we move on from comics and stuff for you. I guess it's a two-parter. So have you read any comics with Joker in them that kind of
No,
stand out?
actually, no. The comic books that I read most, Spider-Man versus Wolverine. I think it was issue 1. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. That was probably the first one I read when I was young. I always loved Wolverine. He was always my favorite.
Oh yeah, he's cool.
Wolverine was always. I like
He's a cool
Spider-Man,
dude.
but I always liked Wolverine. It's just badass.
Okay. And I guess the second part's more of a request, maybe. I want to recommend some Joker stuff to you, and maybe in between part 1 and 2, you can maybe read a couple of them or whatever, and we can come and have a little mini book club with the class.
We should.
For because I want to see what kind of. There's so many different takes on Joker too in the comics, and there's the great stories like Killing Joke and the Dark Knight Returns, and where you get all these like portrayals that have been around forever. But there's other Joker stories that are just like they can get weird, they can get real, like gruesome, like they can get silly. So like I'm gonna look for some stuff and recommend it to you and see what you think.
Got it. I'm not averse to it. Like I said, the Joker was just periphery for a long time because I loved Blade. Like Wesley's Blade was my dude. The first 2 were amazing.
Oh, Blade.
I loved Blade. Blade is
so cool.
My top
like that movie, that trilogy. As you know, the third one's not as good as but overall, like the fact that they kept getting made, it was cool.
Yeah, and I loved Nomak and him and Blade going at it like a real. We talked about somebody that's really his equal that could actually and they're going at it.
Whistler was a good supporting character and like
Off was all right in the first one.
Yeah,
I thought the third one with Dracula was. I mean, I wasn't overly impressed.
I mean, there's some cool stories with Blade and Dracula in the comics that you're like, because Dracula's like this really, he's not out to do evil. He's just he's so old. Like when you've been alive for that long, like all this other stuff you don't even care.
Right.
You're just trying to be kind of left alone, and that's more the Dracula you get in the comics. Like, he's got a plan and he's got schemes and stuff. Like, there's a really cool thing where, it's not cool, but the vampires just kind of go live as Chernobyl because there's nobody there. They can't be bothered. So Dracula sets up in Chernobyl.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
And people still, like, they go after them and they just kind of want to be left alone. So it's very interesting. So, I'll look for some stuff, hit you up.
Yes, please.
All right. We can move this train forward now.
Yes. Well, we're about to wrap up in a few minutes anyway because I'm getting tired. And we could talk all night.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm gonna go back and see how long our Dark Knight Joker conversation was.
I really want to. I want to watch it again and take notes, and we can really get into it.
Yeah, and I'll watch I'm gonna end up watching the 3 movies again. I'm so mad. I'm so mad that they won't release that. You have to buy the digital 4K separate from the physical 4K. Like it doesn't just come together in a bundle, and I could just buy both things at once. You
can't put 3 of them together?
No, like you know how you get like a 4K disc and then it comes with a digital copy. They don't do that for. I mean, they know if you want to watch it in 4K, you're gonna buy them. And I don't really want to set up. As much as I love having physical media, it's a pain in the butt sometimes to watch. So, we'll watch them and come back and talk about them.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. But like I said, me and Danny have been discussing doing a whole show about the Joker, and I've seen psychological interpretations. I didn't even talk about Joaquin's Joker really because that's a whole different animal to unpack.
Oh yeah,
and we don't have enough time for that, honestly. So, if you had to recommend one comic book series to the good listeners, which one would you recommend?
Oh, that one's actually pretty easy. I've this loaded in my holster all the time. It's called it's a Hawkeye series. It's
Mm-hmm.
by Matt Fraction and David Aja and
Mm-hmm.
Francisco Francavilla. It's kind of the basis of what the show's going to be. It's they're pulling a lot from there. The TV show that's coming, but this has been out since like 2015. Um, and it's about what happens when Hawkeye is not with the Avengers and is just kind of hanging out in his neighborhood. Like he still gets in the shenanigans, and it all also brings in Kate Bishop, who is my favorite Hawkeye.
Okay.
I
Is
like
that
her. I like her a lot. I like that character a lot. I think her introduction was a little weird in the comics, but now she's kind of full rounded character. I like the chemistry between, not chemistry, the relationship between Hawkeye and Kate Bishop Hawkeye, and Pizza Dog. So yeah, that one. If you want something non superhero, I'll recommend I Kill Giants, which I think Hulu adapted it into a movie a few years ago. But
okay?
it's just a 7 issue series.
Mm-hmm.
It's about uh, it's about grief and loss and moving on. But it's
Mm.
all put through the lens of like this girl who believes she has to fight giants. Uh,
Wow.
it's very cool. Like I started reading it and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't stop myself until I finished the book when I first read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on my list of like this is like an intro level. Like here's what you can do with comics.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an intro level comic. You don't need any knowledge beforehand. You don't need anything afterwards. It's a self-contained story with a great story, beautiful art. It is in
Mm-hmm.
black and white, so if you need colors, like I said, you can. And the movie adaptation is actually pretty good. It's very faithful um to the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's a movie out, I usually watch the movie first, then go read the comic. Like I watched Old, the M Night Shyamalan movie this
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and that's also based on a French comic called Sandcastle. So I went back. I read the comic yesterday, just to kind of see like the influence and what they changed, what they kept, what M Night Shyamalan added, because
He always.
he loves to add his stuff to the movie. So yeah, they're both pretty enjoyable, but I like to look at the original material as well.
Top 5 non-comic book movies.
Um,
And they don't like lists. Doesn't mean
yeah,
particular.
just off the top of my head, Gladiator, The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Um, see, I'm trying to think of what's a movie that I just kind of watch over and over. Um, I think Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. I
Uh-huh.
love that stupid movie. When I was in college, we would watch it all the time because it was the Blu-ray that came with a PS3. So
Mm-hmm.
my friend who we hung out at his apartment in college, like that was like one of the only Blu-rays they had. I think it was that and Spider-Man 3. So Talladega Nights was always on repeat at that apartment. I lost my shit when Ricky Bobby when they try to pull a knife out of his leg with another knife. I lost it at the theater. I remember. Um, let's see. There's 3. I like 7 a lot. David Fincher.
What's in the
Yeah,
box? What's in the
what's
box?
in the box? Um, and then I'm gonna give you a movie that's not very good, but I love watching it. It's called The Core
Okay.
with Hilary Swank, where they have to make it to the center of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I love rewatching that movie, and it's dumb and it's not very good as far as like I love disaster movies that take it too far. But I mean, yeah, that one it's very simple, cool premise. I don't know. I really like that. So is that 5? That sounds like 5.
That's cool. Let's see. So, being that you are all about these comic book movies and comic books and all that stuff and all the things that you know drawing and art and all the arts, what's your feel about Zack Snyder?
Oh, I love Zack Snyder. Like out of all the I like all the movies he's made except Sucker Punch is not something I like to go back and rewatch. And I've never seen the animated one, the Guardians of Bahul or whatever. It's something with the owls.
Right.
I think he's got a very specific take on things, and he knows what he likes, and that's what he puts in his movies. I understand why he's very polarizing as far as like not everybody likes him.
Mm.
I get that. I don't try to shove his stuff down anybody's face because it's not. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Like,
right.
That's fine. But I like it. I like his stuff. I don't recommend it, but I will talk about it. If you ask me about it, I will talk about it.
Right.
I'm so glad that he's back doing zombie stuff because Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite. His remake of Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
I love what he. I just love the update from the original one. Like it just really feels like, especially for was it 2004, I think. Like it's just like, oh yeah, and it just keeps that message is kind of resonating even more and more now. But I'm glad he's getting to play with zombies on Netflix and just kind of doing whatever he wants to do. He's got a big. He had a pitch for Star Wars that nobody wanted to make. So now he's just gonna have his own space epic now that he could do stuff with Netflix. It's coming, and I'm excited for it. Yeah, so he has a really cool visual style that is very specific to the aesthetic and the things I kind of enjoy in the movie. So I'm also very forgiving with movies, and you can win me over pretty easily.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I like liking stuff. I like liking stuff more than I like.
Yes, you are a very positive person.
You'll rarely hear me like shit on something. I kind of get that's why I really like watching Kevin Smith because I feel like he just likes talking about the stuff he likes. Like
100%. All right, as we wrap it up, last question. It should have been your first question, but because you weren't here for the first question.
Oh yeah.
If you could be a vampire, a ghost, a wolf, a werewolf, a zombie, or a serial killer, which would you be and why?
Oh, vampire.
Why would you be a vampire?
I think the idea of being able to live for that long and I'm thinking like Interview with a vampires, like those type of vampires, where they just kind of want to have a good life, get the fancy things. I'm also thinking a little bit of like What We Do in the Shadows type of vampires. Like, I love that show. I love the stuff that's going on. Matt Berry is one of the funniest people on television. So yeah, vampire for sure. Like, they just get to do all the cool stuff except go outside in the sun and
unless you Blade.
Yeah,
I would be Blade. If I had to be a vampire, I'd be Blade. I don't.
Yeah, Daywalker. There you go.
Oh, Mr. Munoz. Can you bring up the slate, please, sir?
Slate?
Yes. So Wednesday, I believe the 13th, we have Mr. Hopner on. He's going to be talking about his new book. Next Saturday, the 16th, one of my mentors and a very fine writer and poet in his own right, Mr. Clarence Best Denjoy, who's going to be talking about hockey, tattooing, art, and crocheting. Yes, she does all of those things. And on the 30th, we got our mental health roundtable. Can you bring up the plug for my book, please? Yes, if you want to order a copy of Love and Poetry, these are all of the ways. You can Facebook me, you can message me, you can email me, do all of these things. You can order it on Amazon if you really want to, but I get more money when you don't. Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Martinez, we ended up having a pretty in-depth, short, long
interview.
We did.
I'm glad. I'm really sorry we started late.
No,
but I appreciate the accommodation. I look forward to being back here to round out our conversation. I felt like we planted some great seeds.
Yes.
Of discourse.
I do also want to talk about young Danny. at some point.
Oh, that guy.
You know,
Yeah, he's a
Danny, pre-comic book, Danny, when you're a regular human.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I got into comic books very late.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was pretty interesting from your pre-interview. So I thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure talking to you. Stick around for the after show post-production meeting. And I'll leave you with this quote because you are a Batman Begins fan. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. Thank you all for being Everyday Experts. I'm Sir Joker. Joker out. Mr. Martinez, thank you. Nanu Nanu.